Welcome back to the second half of Newsline. Well, again, money and how much we have in our pocket after Chinese New Year. The government announced an increase of 2.7% for most of its civil servants. That's not an awfully large or dramatic increase, but it's better than nothing, particularly at this time of the year. Some civil servants' unions have accepted this award, even though they've got reservations. Others, however, are extremely unhappy. Mr. Wong, why is your organisation so dissatisfied with this increase, even when you know that it really is only an interim increase, because there'll be a chance later on in the year to discuss a further backdated pay award for your members?
First of all, it's not only the Federation or the affiliate union to the Federation feels unhappy with the award from the government. I think it's quite a large number of civil servants who think that this pay issue is very unfair. I think we are not fighting a large sum of money in our pocket, but we're rather fighting for justice. Because you know that in last August, the Directorate Civil Servants had already a pay adjustment by 6.4% to 13.5%. That means to say the high rank official had already get the 7,600 in their pocket already. And we are now only asking for 6.4%. That means the lowest percentage, which is over to the Directorate Civil Servants.
But we have to say, don't we, that the reason why the Directorate were given that increase, according to the government, was because in previous years they'd always had the smallest possible increase, while the members of the civil service at the bottom of the scale had got the largest. So that at some point the government had to increase the pay of the top, otherwise these people would go to jobs in the private sector. But is that true or not?
But if you remember that in 1983, the same principle applies to the middle and low rank civil servants, because at that time the government had a survey that the private sector is having a 9% increase. So theoretically they should offer 9% to the civil servants. At that time they only 5% to the civil servants. So actually I think that the government is having a double standard.
Well, you're talking about justice, and you're saying it's not a very large sum of money, and I began by saying it doesn't, 2.7% doesn't sound awfully generous. But there are many people in Hong Kong who say it's much too generous. The Employers Federation, for example, has said this is much more than private industry is going to pay its members. So if you were a private employee, wouldn't you be rather jealous of civil servants who are going to get 2.7%?
I think if you remember that we have a petition to the EXCO members and also the unofficial LegCo members, we state clearly in a petition that we would like to see a fair deal. We would like to see either a flat rate to the middle and low rank civil servants and the high rank officials, or we can have any percentage of adjustment, provided that the high rank official can pay back a little bit to the taxpayer. That means to say we can accept a 0% of salary adjustments, provided that the high rank official can pay it back to the taxpayer.
Let me ask you very bluntly, why is it that you expect some civil servants who've been lucky enough to get an increase from their employer, the government, to pay back any part of that increase? I mean, do you know any workers anywhere at all in Hong Kong who would say, yes, it's a good idea to pay back part of an increase that they've got?
I think it's the real reaction of the middle and low rank civil servants that either we should get the same flat rate adjustment at this issue, or we should have at least 6.4%, which is the lower percentage that the Directorate gets in August last year.
Now, there's another side to this, isn't there? You've just said that in your petition you've told the UMELCO you don't care how much you get, as long as everybody gets the same. So in fact, you don't have any claim based on hardship, cost of living, relationship to the private sector, do you? Because you're happy to say that this year your members don't need any increase at all.
What I mean is only this pay issue, but not the one in the April, because the April one is the annual adjustment. But this one is the issue that it's because the directorate had already got a very big deal. And also it is in the 1983 that the government had not over 4%.
Well, let's just clarify it for our viewers.
Yeah.
When you say that you'd be quite happy, as far as your members are concerned, to have no increase at all, you are in fact saying, aren't you, that you can't claim an increase on grounds of greater productivity, cost of living, or that the wages in the private sector have gone up. Any claim that you make is solely because you don't like some civil servants to get more money than others.
Sure. Yes. And I think it's because we think that if we have a salary adjustment at this moment, later on we may have inflation that already make the standard of living again lower. So I think for the lower rank civil servants, they might not wish to see that unjust salary adjustment.
Can I ask you this? How important do you think the principle is that all civil servants should get exactly the same percentage increase? Is that the most important principle there is?
I think it's only the principle applied to this issue. If you
what
ask
about
me,
the April review? Now, suppose in April the government says the lower civil servant should get, say, 9% and the upper ones should get 3%. Do you think it would be fair for the upper grades in the civil service to say everybody should get the same?
I think the most fair treatment will be maybe a flat rate, but not in terms of percentage, but in terms of money value. Say, for example,
everybody gets
$500. Maybe the...
But again, can I ask you, in Hong Kong, do you know any employer or any workers who think that everybody should get the same flat rate?
I stress that it's only on this issue.
But in April?
In April, that might be a flat amount to every civil servant and then a percentage. A flat amount, say, for example, $500 to every civil servant, and then a flat percentage to every civil servant. Say, for example, 500 plus 4% salary adjustment.
Quite honestly, Mr. Wong, you're caught in a bit of a trap now, aren't you? Because if you insist on the equal principle, it means, in fact, that for the future, your members will not get the same generous treatment at the bottom of the scale compared with the top of the scale.
I stress that it's only on this issue, because this issue is not fighting for a salary adjustment. It's only because we are fighting that we should have a just treatment, that because the directorate had already in the pocket 13%, we should at least get 6.4%.
Now, the other trouble you've got is that a lot of civil servants' unions simply don't agree with you. They regard it as getting themselves trapped in a position where their members at the lower end of the scale, who are the majority of the union members, are going to give up the idea that you help those who have the smallest wage packets by giving them the largest increases.
I think there's danger to have such a counter offer to the government. I think if they ask the member one by one, I think the majority of the member may say that they would like to get the 6.4%, but not the 2.7%. Because I've told you just now, we have a signature campaign in the government offices. We get, I think, support from various ranks of civil servants, including very high-rank officials, high-rank civil servants. Say, for example, some senior medical officers, chief executive officers, senior architects, senior engineers, senior surveyor, all kind of professionals supporting the 6.4%. I think they are not wishing that the real reason they signed on the signature campaign form is not they're asking more, but they are asking fairness.
Now, fairness, justice. Are you going to have go-slows and strikes?
I think at the present moment we have not yet considered this kind of strong action. But I think
Do you think it would ever be fair for civil servants to have go-slows and strikes? Because they don't harm the employer, the employer's not a commercial firm, doesn't make a profit. If you have go-slows and strikes, it's always the public who suffers, isn't it? Is that fair
I think
and just?
if the government have a very unfair deal to the civil service, and which irritate the civil service to have a kind of stronger action, I think I do not rule it out, because still I think it's the basic right of the civil servants is also one kind of employee. They should have this kind of basic right to express his idea. But of course we have to consult every member before we make such a decision.
And what about the police? What about doctors? Do you think people, the emergency service, do you think that they should go slow, work to rule and go on strike? Or is there a limit to this right to take direct action?
If we have a fair comparison with Hong Kong and some other European country, I think you know that doctors, even policemen in these countries can strike. But of course, before they take a strike action, they have to consider the situation carefully. And also, I think they have to consult fully the members before they take such kind of action. But in Hong Kong, I think it's a special region that I should prefer that we should keep the society stable.
And what about teachers? Should they go on strike even?
Livelihood too much. If this kind of action still can be controlled by the union themselves and still can be tolerated by the public, I do not rule out this kind of action.
There's one final obvious point. The money that goes to pay civil servants comes directly out of the pockets of taxpayers, members of the public. The taxpayer believes, rightly or wrongly, that already civil servants have a great many benefits which the ordinary worker doesn't. Don't you think there's a danger that possibly your current claim in the name of fairness and justice, not in the name of need, is likely to make people discontented with the benefits that civil servants get, might make them feel they should call for a much tougher policy on the total package of benefits which is provided for civil servants?
I have to deny that the whole civil service is getting very good fringe benefits. I think it's only higher ranked civil servants that get much better fringe benefits. But I think the middle ranked civil servants can never get, say, housing benefit or all kinds of allowances. I think they are just like some other employees. They are only paying about $5,000 to $8,000 a month, and whilst the lower ranked civil servants can only get $2,000, $3,000. I think I can say that they are actually in the same situation as some other employees in the private sector.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wong.
Yeah.
That brings Newsline to a close for this week. We'll be back with you again next week at the same time. So till then, good night to you from all of us here in the studio. Good night.